Hey, our amazing audience members, welcome back to Solutionary TV. You know who I am. I don't think we need any more introductions. We really just want to get to the heart and the juice of what it is that is bringing you back to Solutionary TV, for which I am abundantly grateful. We, as a production studio, are amazingly honored to have you here. And we are really enjoying all of the guests that we've been able to bring to share their area of expertise and pertinence to these topics that we all find to be compelling. We are in a time of change. We're in a time of massive, massive transition and human evolution in science and innovation, in disclosure, in understanding, in a much more quantum level, how we are all connected and what our origins are and what we're capable of. It's some of the greatest fiction, and honestly, I think our fiction has always been following what we always knew to begin with. And tonight is no exception. We are welcoming back Robert Potter of The Promise Revealed, Prepare for Change. He is a contactee and author. He is an expert in Venusian history and philosophy and folklore. And as many topics are keeping us very interested right now, it is all the rage. It is the in thing to be talking about a topic that you would never have believed would have taken an internet by force. It's so sacred. It's astonishing that this is the new thing. But the fact of the matter is, many of us that have been walking this planet for quite some time have always known that we were a little out of step, a little out of place. We felt like we were sliding in and out of a concept of self and reality, and didn't always buy into the storyline that we had been given as a society, that, you're born, you show off real big, you acquire a lot of stuff, you attach yourself to a lot of people, and you leave a really beautiful, headstone behind, and hope that you made a difference. And this new timeline, or this new vision, and this new in concept is all about ascension, the ability to move to a higher dimensional state. So I'm not going to overtalk it, because I've got a really great expert on here tonight that would like to address what Venusians, yes, are space brothers and sisters that occupy and have occupied for quite some time Venus, as he would suggest and as he understands. I'm not the expert. I want to turn it over to Rob. Rob, thanks for joining us tonight. It's great to have you back.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. And you have been interviewing some friends of mine who have some experience. One, of course, is Raymond Keller.
Yeah.
One of the most profound UFO contactees that I've met since Dr. Frank Strange's and Louis Martin's. Raymond has a tremendous amount of personal experience with Venus, and his history is deep there.
It sure is. 3 books, and you cannot make an hour out of his show. So I'm challenging you to give us the best of your favorite tidbits on his expertise. Rob, tell us more.
Well, he's got some amazing experiences there, including going back to Venus and living there for 2.5 months with Lady Orda. And there's a long history there. He met her, I think it was back in, I want to say 1977 or something. He met her at Gabriel Green's house, but didn't actually. He had a series of contact with her throughout his life, and recently he's just taken off and written 3 books with a tremendous amount of knowledge. He's lived in 44 different countries. I think he speaks 3 or 4 languages. He's an intellectual scholar, a very kind and gentle man, and he has a great sense of humor.
And he's so humble. He's so humble, isn't he, Rob?
Very humble. And one of the things that you'll find when you connect with the Venusian contactees is that people are actually developed spiritually. They're not necessarily the great UFO expert in technology or whatever, but they're very kind and gentle souls who are radiating love and energy. And I just got back from Bolivia, where I spent some time with my other Venusian contactee, Luis Mostajo Fernando Martins. He will be appearing in Mount Shasta this summer as well. But from those experiences, I've gathered some new information in regards to uh, various intentions and plans of the Galactic Confederation, as well as the plans for humanity's long awaited interfacing with not only the Galactic Confederation, which represents many planets not only in this solar system, but from beyond this solar system and beyond this galaxy as well.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of attention being placed here on planet Earth in our current stage of development. And there's a lot of things, uh, we could go on and start anywhere. I've been a great fan of Valiant Thor's since forever when
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Strange came out with that book a long, long time ago.
Right.
Uh, it's one of the famous um, contact experiences of our time.
What year was
And,
that, Rob? For our
uh,
viewers, just to kind of get a baseline. Was that in
I'm
the
not really sure
70s?
when the first printing took place, but he's had several editions come out. But of course, Valiant Thor was at the Pentagon in 1957.
Mm-hmm.
Was he arrived at the Pentagon 2 weeks after I was born in April. So um, Valiant Thor and his mission has been here as a supreme commander of the Venusian forces under the direct um, installation of Yeshua the Christ or Jesus the Christ, which is maybe hard for some people to imagine, but we're talking about people traveling, Venus is 26,870 something thousand miles away. So we're going to be talking about communication and travel and everything. People are going to have to open your minds a little bit and understand that um, there is a group of silence of people that have wanted to keep the truth hidden from the public
Mm-hmm.
for a long, long time about the nature of what's been happening here. And more and
Rob,
more
on that
people,
note, if you don't mind me interrupting you, tell me if you can wrap your head around this because I can't. We have got so much content in authors' work, really brilliant fiction, great sci fi movies, fabulous writing in Netflix originals, all demonstrating a concept of science that is so well thought out and so beautifully demonstrated. Why do you think that the average individual in our current public finds it so far-fetched that we actually have access to some of these things? And that preceded a lot of what we actually see in pop culture, modern media, television.
well, the programming has done its work. You've been trained in school. They've had a program have you laugh when anyone talks about a UFO, when in fact the government has been retrieving discs and is aware of, hundreds of different ET types of races and is actually in ongoing dialogues and discussions at various level with various extraterrestrial groups. Now, there are those that are looking as our extraterrestrials as benevolent and kind and having our best interests at heart. And then there's those within our elitist groups in the military and governments who consider them to be hostile. And the fact that they, you know, seek to, promote what some people would call communism. Communism comes from the word community or to live in community. So what happens is we have people who are triggered by the word communism. Well, in all extraterrestrial civilizations, there's a, a lot more awareness that we all come from one being. We're all part of one creator,
Mm-hmm.
and our science understands this. So for them, sharing and working together, like you help your daughter or you help your son,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same way that you would help others.
Mm-hmm.
So everything doesn't have to revolve around materialism and money. In
Right.
fact, that's one of the biggest errors that we make here on planet Earth is to believe that everything revolves around money and accumulating things. And the Venusians have a secret science of ascension that is the technology of the ascended masters and is a pretty basic understanding of souls, where we come from, what really happens after death, and what is called the rounds of existence or incarnation for a soul to develop itself. So, um, if you like, I can share a little bit of the Venusian description.
I would love it. In fact, my next question will really beautifully lead into that. We hear a lot about what type of dimensional beings have actually surpassed humanity and are maybe our future, or maybe, our timelines are more lock and step, but they're more evolved than us and they experience greater dimensionality than the 3D limited perception that we all have with the whole 4.7% of the known universe through the eyes of a human being. We're missing 95%, and without intuitive prowess and a developmental skill set, we're missing a lot. Where are the Venusians? Maybe lead into telling us a little bit more about them by helping us understand, are they multidimensional? Are they fourth dimensional? How far have they surpassed us, Rob?
There are, just like on Earth, there's many different dimensions of life there. So, and we can talk about timelines. I mean, I'm not an astrophysicist. When you start talking into timelines and stuff, we know from the the things that we've been studying and the evidence we've been seeing, obviously, um, the speed of light can be exceeded. There's a
Hmm.
technology using wormholes
Yeah.
or portals, or some call them vortexes or vortals or whatever, to describe these relationships where everything is kind of connected. Like Fred Bell used to always play the Jonathan Livingston Seagull, perfection is being there. In other words, it's not someplace you have to go, it's someplace you need to uncover within yourself.
Hmm.
So let me talk about a soul. Um, I cover spoken a little bit about this, but I think it's good that people get a basic understanding of, and this is not the same for everyone as far as incarnation goes, but when a soul starts from the source of the creator, wherever that is in time or space, it goes through the galactic central sun of our galaxy, and then the souls would be traveling until they find a suitable location. And these are generally a group of souls. This is like the beginning of a soul's incarnation experience, starting out as a virgin soul. So the souls would come and they'd land on the outer rim of our solar system, and they would land on uh, Neptune. And then this Neptune, um, uh, Uranus, and Pluto are forms of life that are what we call the basic elementals.
Hmm.
So when a soul comes there, the soul has no experience. It simply is aware of itself. And when it goes to the outer planets, it begins to inhabit consciousness in the form of a rock or beingness, and begins to develop its ability to manifest a form. And it goes through a series of experiences there on those three planets. And I was shown this a long, long time ago in about the 80s.
Hmm.
I was taken out of my body, and I was shown it's a very, very, very long time that a soul will be spending on these three worlds, perhaps millions of years.
Hmm.
And then after a soul has developed itself on um, those worlds, then it will go to developing its etheric or astral body on the planet of Saturn. So now we have a soul that has some experience in developing, and now on Saturn, it begins to develop its astral body and begins to formulate its feeling nature. And then after it's done had that experience, it will then incarnate on Jupiter. And Jupiter is where kind of the etheric, the astral, and the soul body are perfected. So now a soul is ready for an incarnation. So the next incarnation, or its first incarnation in the physical existence, will be on the planet Mars. And even what you're hearing from Corey and David, that's not the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, those canals on Mars are actually um, vegetation strips. They've grown, they decided to grow all their plants along the natural magnetic lines of force on the planet so that life could grow there more abundantly. Now, on the planet of Mars, it's very basic. Like if we were to incarnate there, it would be like going back in time. We wouldn't want to. We'd be like, it'd be like going back to high school. We've already done it. We wouldn't be interested. So that's the first place where a soul gets to experience the outer world. But it's very kind of basic. They're very physically strong. They're into engineering, and there is a whole civilization there on Mars that is not as advanced as we are here on Earth.
Sounds like Elon is going to be very surprised when he pops off in his Tesla rocket and is ready with the infrastructure to start terraforming Mars that it's already currently occupied. How much do you
Well,
think that
it's a
we
big
really know
planet.
about these things?
Yeah, it's a big planet, and the government bases, and the ET bases that are there, most of them are underneath the surface, as well as on Mars. There's life underneath the surface, but there's also life on the surface that we're not told about, or Corey and David hasn't even talked about that eventually will be shown there.
Yeah.
Now, so we come to Earth, and now the Earth is a location where we really begin to start this outward expansion to experience everything there is to experience physical. So it's not just physical, but it's we're also going to be engaged in developing new feelings, experimenting with all types of possibilities um, in life and creation and even in accumulation of things. They call this on Venus. They call this the path of pursuit. So
What does
when a
that
soul
mean?
reaches the earth, it begins the path of pursuit of things, of items, of knowledge, and eventually, when the soul realizes that it can only accumulate so much, and that there's only so much that can be actually garnered,
Hmm.
that you can keep in one lifetime. What is the purpose of our life? We're in this immensity of the universe and experience, and yet we only live, at least at this particular time, maybe 100, or for the general public, maybe 120 years. There are many others who live longer, and the secret science of ascension is known and taught, and people have resurrected and do what, as Raymond calls, translate.
Yes.
So I'm going to finish this cycle a little bit. Um, so when the soul is ready, it starts to seek its path homeward, back from whence it came, to return to developing its higher consciousness. So after a number of lifetimes on the earth, it will then begin to incarnate on Venus. So we go from one planet to the next, and then we go to the next planet and the next. And by this time now, we're incarnating on the earth, and then we have a astral plane of the earth. But as we get more advanced, in between lives, will incarnate on Venus. And then we would have another incarnation on the physical plane. And when we begin to connect and have a desire to connect with our souls, they call that the path of return. So that's what a lot of your New Age star seed people are are going through on Earth. This is a time that is very expansive and is actually long prophesized and awaited for on planet Earth
Hmm.
for souls to be able to develop themselves.
So can I
Now,
stop you there and just ask a quick question for the
sure.
sake of our viewers? That was fascinating. The idea that we experience levels of density and awareness and consciousness as a new soul on planets that give us a chance to get maybe a more subtle context of things. You know, the Earth is highly populated and it's got a lot of tumultuous energy, and densities and dimensions are different from planet to planet. So that built a lovely story. Given the fact that we are looking at the event, is what many call it, the shift, the ascension event, the solar flash, solar flare, is this something that even the Venusians are waiting for? Because it sounds like they've already evolved spiritually past us. Do they need to wait for this as well, Rob?
No, they don't. All life will be affected by the solar flash, but um, each planet and dimension will take it differently. Now, I wanted to explain some things here. So, life doesn't end at Venus. What we begin to develop here on Earth is what is called the solar body. So, we have a body made up of various elementals, and some of them are known as the Anu, or the ultimate physical atom. And when we achieve ascension, it means that we have changed out our fleshly garment for a higher vibrational resurrected body of light.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a true science, and it's not openly taught here, but it's known by various initiates and contactees that this path does exist, and that there are teachers that, when the student is ready, will appear and will share this information in the proper way. So we have to realize that for Earth, the schools have been shut down. They have not been open to the public for thousands of years. This science of ascension and the mystery schools and the secret teachings of the ages have been known within the inner temples of the interior of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth in Atlantean times and in Egyptian times, there was even this type of teaching was available to the public. And if you were so interested in developing your soul with the nature of your consciousness, you could go into a mystery school where you could be taught the secrets of your soul and the various techniques to expand your consciousness and the conscious management of energies.
Yeah.
So the Earth is where we begin to develop our solar body. And when you go to South America with Lewis, or you're in various other locations on the Earth, there's special irradiations that come from the inner Earth temples to the surface population of the Earth. And these locations are known around the planet. There's various mythological lores, like here in Mount Shasta, where there's a civilization that lives beneath the mountain
Mm-hmm.
that existed for since 30,000 years ago, when the final sinking of Lemuria took place. Um, and this base is not only a Lemurian base, but it also has members of individuals from Atlantis, ascended masters, and of course, there are galactic bases nearby. Anytime you have a Great White Brotherhood base, there's a galactic base nearby. And for some people who are new to this is going to sound very outrageous and outlandish, but it was sounding that way when I was a kid and I was having experiences, and I knew that this day was going to come. Nothing's going to stop the information from coming to people of Earth and allowing us to understand our true history, the nature of our soul, the science of the soul,
Mm-hmm.
the science of soul development, and the nature of our various bodies is going to be empirically discovered. And it's already been discovered on a certain level, but it hasn't reached the mainstream populace because those in control of information uh, create disinformation to just to block and stop this type of information from getting out to the general public. So
Right.
we have a silence group to stop. So let's go back to after you're done with Venus and you've had glorious lifetimes there where everything is positive, there's no negativity, you begin to develop what's called your solar body. And then you'll go to the next planet, which is Mercury. And then after you spend a series of incarnations on Mercury, you'll go to a planet named Vulcan.
Vulcan.
And you'll
Okay.
develop more of your light body, and then eventually you will incarnate on the sun. Now, that's the graduate school for this solar system. And the Earth is a unique planet in that we have a lot of other souls from other solar systems,
Mm-hmm.
from other worlds, and there's a tremendous amount of information and, let's say, territorial claims to the genetics of Earth and to what's been going on here.
Is that because of the
And
Supergate, Rob, that we hear about so often? You talk about the wormholes and the ultimately, these points of transit, so that we don't have to travel great distances because we understand the quantum physics models of these wormholes. And I'm told there's a Supergate that actually allows intelligence from all over the universe to be able to get very close to us and be able to observe and then, be involved in some of the genetic experiments on Earth. Is that what you'd be referring to?
yeah, I'm not so sure the genetic experiments were just that. Some of them were rogue elements of genetic manipulation, which is their different views and looked down upon. But I will definitely say that there's several things between two bodies. Halfway between here and the moon, there's a little portal. Halfway between, Mercury, between any two planets, halfway between them. You can go there and they can do a certain type of acceleration
Mm-hmm.
of the spaceship and it will jump. So, for me, a lay person or other people to talk about as if we know what really we're talking about, you'd have to go to one of my secret space contactee guys who developed a technology. He said he'd get a hold of me again, but never does.
Well, and
But
then we also know that there's been some very well published and peer reviewed um, photos and videos of Hubble through the Hubble Space Telescope with filters that allow us to see what is beyond what we consider to be real matter. And you can actually see it looks like the neurons firing of the brain. It looks like this very high intensive connectivity. Is that kind of again what you're talking about between the spheres, this intelligent network that's going on?
very much so, as above, so below. Another important part of the Venusian secret science of ascension, um, if I can finish this up, and then I'll get into that, is understanding the grand man of the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
So first, we look at let's look at the solar system as a five-pointed star, and different planets occupy occupy various positions um, on that. And I'm gonna give you an image here um, that you can look at. But there is an understanding of this as above, so below. And so I'm going to give you this.
You hold it up a little bit higher for us. Perfect. Okay. And then back out just a little bit and center it with your head if you could a bit, Rob. Okay. So
Yeah,
are we looking at a pentagram or are we looking at a Merkaba there?
you're looking at
Pentagram. Okay.
It's a pentagram, but it's called the Grand Man of the Heavens.
Okay. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so that represents the human body. So we have a point at the top, and let's call that our spiritual self.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another point, which is our physical self. And there's another point, which is our social self. And there's another point, which they call the service self, but we call it financial. And the other part is mental.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, according to the Venusians, you must develop yourself on all 5 points of your star of life. In other words, every day you should get up and take care of your body. You should brush your teeth. You should clean your skin. You need to exercise and take care of food and good nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
You should also expand your mind every day and learn something new. You should also develop yourself in spirituality by meditating and praying, develop your spiritual nature. You can develop uh, your social nature by communicating with people. You can't shut yourself off and become a hermit. You can't overdevelop any one point of the star, or you could become a muscle head, like all you care about is weights, and kind of like oh yeah, I'm the weight guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
we're supposed to develop all 5 points of our star is very important. So on Venus, they have no need to live in faith or to uh, question what's going on because they can actually see and feel and have direct access. They're living in a very authentic, real timeline, and everything is in congruence, and everyone is peaceful, everyone is kind, and everyone has a very high level of consciousness. And they uh, know that to develop yourself along the spiritual lines um, is kind of like the goal in life is to develop yourself and to be of service to others.
So
The
to
more you
inherit Venus, are they already fourth and fifth dimensional beings, Rob? Give us at least a sense of how they've
they're
graduated beyond
three-dimensional,
us.
fourth-dimensional, fifth-dimensional, sixth-dimensional, just like on Earth. We
Okay.
have there are pictures of actually in the etheric level. There are cities they're existing above our cities.
Mm-hmm.
There have been pictures of some of them that may be real.
Mm-hmm.
So these bleed throughs are coming through. So there's an etheric level, and then there's an astral level. And according to Raymond, there may be 60 or 70 planets within our solar system from the higher dimensions that we don't even see or know about.
It's
So
fascinating.
we have
Yeah,
to keep
Paul
an
Davies
open
was
mind.
just recently his science was put out there on Gaia, and his whole concept was we've been waiting, looking at ECETI um, telescopes and wondering where they are, and that's if you don't believe in all of the disclosure and the repressed. But he posed a really beautiful idea that marries gorgeously with what you just said, Rob, which is why do we expect it to look the way we look? Why are we so limited and so bought and sold on this 4.7% of reality and not recognize that intelligent life may be post biological or it may be a different frequency of biology? So is that really what you're talking about here?
There's all kinds of stuff out there. Just in the physical alone, it's going to get very complicated. And to wrap your mind around the immensity and the vastness of infinity, and to put that into human perspective with our myths and what we know of our planet and the misinformation and compare it against other worlds is a very complex and deep subject. I've been into it for a long time, and I've been very fortunate. I've had some great teachers, and I've met some very powerful beings, and I've kind of gotten a little broader perspective than some to draw on. But let's just say that eventually you're born on the sun, and you can hold more light than anyone can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of souls that have come here from other worlds. Some of them have got caught here and trapped in our reincarnation system. So, you know, the aliens can abduct someone, uh, and we might think that they're abducting that person, they kill that person, but they're actually liberating that being from from the earthly reincarnation cycle, and they're taking them back to their planet of origination. So these types of things that we don't understand and know about, we kind of have to have a longer perspective to look at. And one of the things I want you to know is that Venus has been around, and they have a history that goes back 33.5 million years ago. And about 25 million years, a group called the Norcons that are talked about in Corey Good's experiences, they're actually Venusians now, but they came here a long, long time ago, and um, about 5.5 million years ago, I think there was a group that came here that used what's called the Vril technology, and that's being used, talked about with the Nazis uncovered some of this information. And the Vril technology is a very highly advanced form of technology, and all the races that were using it were going around and splicing different races together.
Hmm.
And so they actually have a technology where you could actually look and see what two different type of races would look like if you were to marry them together. But there was a native population here that were beings that were actually bees, and they were spliced together with the Alpha Centaurians to become like bee people.
Okay.
And this group that was manipulating the Earth, a meteor hit the Earth and stirred up bacteria, and that group died off. So what you had left over was the Norcans and the bees together um, were used to serve this other race and gather food. And it goes into Raymond's story there a little bit, but basically the humans now have kind of the bee part element has been bred out of some of the human population there.
Hmm.
And on the physical 3D level, the people from Venus call themselves Abijarians, which means the planet of the bees. So there's physical beings uh, on the third dimension of Venus. There's also where Omnik comes from on the interior planet, astral beings.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also different uh, groups that live in various locations on the surface of the planet. Some are cloaked and some are not. Raymond says that the planet is more hollow than ours, so its gravity density isn't as strong as Earth. And there's many other things there. Oh, a very interesting thing about the grand man of the heavens is that if we were to look at our solar system as a being, the pineal gland would be the sun, okay?
Right.
And the earth would be the heart chakra
Mm-hmm.
of the solar system.
Mm-hmm.
So all the planets have various aspects. The seven sacred planets begin with Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Earth, Vulcan, and Mercury. Those are the seven sacred planets because that's where consciousness and life is developed. So um, being aware that on Venus and these other worlds, it's very well understood um, that you incarnate for a series of times on these different worlds, and that you go back. And on Venus, for instance, there's no quarantine. Everyone wakes up knowing their purpose, what they came here for.
Mm-hmm.
When you're born and you're a very little child, the masters will call you in with your parents and say, okay, you know about your child's lifetime now that they've made these various decisions. They're probably going to be involved in an engineer class, or they're going to be developing along these lines. We ask that you, um, you know, help them along their soul path of what they want to do. So everything's kind of understood there. The secrets of life and the nature of how to develop our consciousness is very closely aligned with these two forces.
So you're
And
saying they
this is
don't
another,
have the veil that we by being
they don't have a veil.
okay, 3D on Earth, we've got the veil. We're born with that veil of forgetfulness and a lack of memory of anything other than who we believe we're evolving into. And their consciousness incarnates into a physical body that is so evolved and a society that's so evolved, they immediately identify the quality of the soul and the choice, the biological choice of the parents and the DNA and the skills you're saying to build a life around
Yeah,
that
and
choice.
the level of culture that develops from this is we can only guess at, and some of us, myself included, we're all involved in the material world. So I want to talk about two forces that Valiant Thor talks about. One is called electricity, and that's electrons and atoms. And what people don't realize, inside the electron is actually what are called a nu, or the ultimate physical atoms. And
Hmm.
so there's actually a science of the breakdown of the various dimensions and planes on the physics level that you can get in the book Rays of Truth and Crystals of Light from that I sell on the site from Fred Bell. But let's look at it this way. Um, our mental thoughts and everything um, actually come from the force called vitricity. Now, you have the power of matter and the power of mind. Which is more potent?
I would assume mind because mind isn't
That's
limited to
correct.
matter.
Right. So we haven't developed an understanding of how this electricity flows. The science of self-realization is kept from us. So I'm going to give you some secrets of the Venusian science of raising your consciousness.
All right, we
And
want to hear it.
okay, so the Great White Brotherhood and the Atlanteans used to teach this openly to the public, and everyone knew it. And you have what's called a cerebellum, and that's at the base of the brain
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
And then electricity, if you can imagine the base of the spine, or where the kundalini is coiled up like a serpent, if you can imagine that as a linear accelerator, and the brain is a target source.
Mm-hmm.
So we're shooting electrons up the spine into the base of the cerebellum.
Mm-hmm.
From the cerebellum, it goes to the negative pole of the pineal gland,
Mm-hmm.
and the electrons will flow across that, and we'll call them vitronic force of the life force. And this goes up over the pituitary gland, kind of into the upper forebrain, where there's like a television screen. And if we can go into this state of subliminal awareness, we can begin to develop our psychic, intuitive, mental clairaudience and telepathic visual abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be discussing this more in depth at the conference. But basically, we raise our kundalini up, we go to the pituitary gland, and then we hold an image that we want to project to someone. And let's say I want to project a thought to Valiant Thor. I would hold an image of him, what he looks like, and either on his location at his home on Venus, or in the Victor 1 spaceship, or in the mothership that some people call the Black Knight, that's 100 miles above the Earth. It's 14 miles long, 7 miles wide, and 5 miles high. It's a very large spaceship that acts as a substation for the Jupiter portal in training extraterrestrials from not only this galaxy, but other galaxies who wish to interact with Earth people in order to be trained, learn about our mentality, the challenges we have, and how that interaction is going to take place. So we bring this energy up, and then it comes back down after we send this image out. We visualize a tunnel from our pituitary gland going out to Valiant Thor. And I encapsulate my thoughts in a blue flame, and I hold the image very strong. And you can do this with your friends. You can develop this technique if you learn how to raise your kundalini
Mm-hmm.
and invoke the light into your endocrine glands. This advanced form of meditation actually will increase your life force or your
Mm-hmm.
mental powers.
Mm-hmm.
And from here, when we can develop our telepathic abilities, we can then communicate with people on Venus. They can be sitting in their living room and can talk to us. This takes time to develop it. You have to learn how to practice entering into the silence. So this is one of the things that is very important for Venusians, is to understand that you're an immortal soul. No matter how many times you die, your soul continues to exist.
Mm-hmm.
You still have um, a consciousness, and your consciousness will develop and change depending on your point in evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this physical body is not the ultimate experience. A lot more uh, possibilities to develop. So I'd like to, if I can, share uh, the conference is coming up here, and we've got a few minutes left. But for those of
Absolutely.
you who are interested, if you're interested in this information, I have a very special conference that Tatiana has been very wonderful in helping me promote. In fact, you've already heard from Raymond Keller. It was absolutely brilliant. He's going to be releasing some new information there. Um, you're going to be seeing some other pictures of Valiant Thor. If you go on my website, thepromiserevealed.com, and in the top, you'll see truth references, and it's called um, the Victory of Light blog. And you can see a lot of articles that Raymond has written, first time releases uh, about the history of Venus and our interaction with the people of Venus and the amount of love that they've shared with us. They've constantly acted as our mentors and as our protectors.
Mm-hmm.
They have engaged with hostile extraterrestrials multiple times in the past to save this planet from complete and utter destruction from those forces who are aligned against truth and are seeking to destroy this planet.
Hmm.
You know, you can't destroy a soul, but you can destroy a planet. And unfortunately, there's some very unfortunate beings who have not learned the power of positive thinking. Now, you can be very positive thinking about how to build a nuclear bomb. You can use your mental thoughts and organize them for some things that aren't so good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yes.
important that people learn the proper use of positive thinking, and that's not doing anything negative. So this is something that's important that we need to understand is the power of our thoughts and the ability of manifestation. And I'm going to be describing that and going into some details, utilizing lasers and crystals and other advanced technologies of negative ionization, utilizing Tesla coils, pyramids, and some of these advanced tachyon field technologies, which is part of the process of raising the vibrations on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it doesn't mean it's not real. So I
Right.
can tell you there's lots of changes going on. The Venusians have said through Louis in South America, they told us the door is open. They have asked me to become involved in helping to create what is called an external retreat of the Great White Brotherhood. And this is a physical location, and we've been given 3 locations to try to develop uh, this areas where various contactees like Lewis, Raymond Keller, myself will be teaching certain techniques to individuals who wish to begin this process of um, serving in the Great White Brotherhood, and white being for purity.
Mm-hmm.
So the physical locations, one is in on Lake Titicaca, the Minor, and it's very close to the golden disk of the sun. And the masters wish for people to go to this property that Louis owns and to bathe themselves in the irradiations in a series of exercises for a week or 2 weeks at a time. We will stay on the property and go through meditations with increased contact with the ships in these preferred locations.
Mm-hmm.
They've also asked us to develop one in Honduras. I can't talk about that location at this time, but um, we're also going to be building one here in Mount Shasta. And for those people who are interested in this, um, they can reach out to me through my website to become involved with this. And the reality is the property needs to be purchased for Mount Shasta, and it has to be developed.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, the members of the Great White Brotherhood or the Shining Ones will be coming out and talking to people at these locations as well as extraterrestrials eventually.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in time, we're in the beginning stages of this. It's time that these locations become built and that the right people will be brought to them to share in some of these more advanced personal development techniques,
Mm-hmm.
which are going to be about developing our solar body and raising our vibration in alignment with universal law and principle.
Yeah.
So that's something that's we've been asked to develop in the future. This conference this summer is going to be about all things Venusian. We've got a lot of good people coming there. I have a busy schedule. I have the speaker schedule up now for those who want to see it, and I'm also promoting it through Eventbrite. So I've changed some of the looks there, but all the links should be working.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking forward to you, Tatiana, being out there.
I
Um,
can't wait. I can't wait. You have really done our audience a wonderful service by referring Dr. Scott Werner, Shari Lynn. We really enjoyed Genesee Roy and Raymond Keller, Raymond twice. It's been really deeply informative, Rob, and thank you for joining with us twice because you've got your own body of knowledge. You're kind of the contactee promoting the other contactees, and it's a beautiful collaboration of supportive information so that we, the seekers, can really disseminate this and draw discernment, right?
Absolutely. And I'll say for those of your audience that are new to this, this trip might be a big uh, thing for you, but if you are kind of already involved and you're waking up to a lot of things that are happening on the planet, I think you're going to find this conference will, you won't feel alone. There's going to be so many people there. The black sheep of the family,
That's right.
Mr. Uh, free bags full. You're gonna have like 60 bags at this conference because everyone there is on their unique path, and we're gonna have some very special um, experiences there. I think in regards to what's taking place. So I think if the people will make the effort to come there, and if not, just enjoy the websites and the links that you're going to see and find, and keep your mind open. It's a lot of good information, and we're not trying to shove this information down your throat,
Mm-hmm.
but we've been lied to a lot. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
most people can figure out there's lies in the economic system.
Mm-hmm.
There's lies with the amount of wars that never get finished. We are hearing a lot of stuff, a lot of rogue elements that are, you know, um, not necessarily politically oriented, um, but we're seeing some change,
Mm-hmm.
and it may not be the best change that people want to see, but at least it's not the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
They've been trying to make these wars take place, and it has been happening. So I think we're going to see a continued level of growth this year. We've been told that this year there will be some storms before the changes, but this is necessary for the planet to come back to God's laws and truths. The
Mm-hmm.
universal force is not recognized, it's not understood. We don't know how to connect with it. And as a race and as a people, we need to understand our true history.
Yeah.
We need to understand where we came from. And this will take place in the next 5 or 10 years as the ancient record repositories come out, as certain of these extraterrestrials will be addressing our world in public.
Hmm.
Um, and these won't be the government promoted ones. If the government announces it, I would be very suspicious.
Hmm. It's too obvious that it's self-serving, Rob, and we know that there have been tactics since the beginning of time for keeping the masses in a belief system that they are free while actually engineering the system to have them in unconscious servitude. And I think so many people are waking up and realizing if from cradle to grave, I'm all about making money and trying to stay healthy and trying to stay relevant, and that's the extent of my divinity or the extent of my life purpose. I think a lot of people are waking up to say, I'm unsatisfied by that. And then they start seeking, and then we start realizing not everything is what I thought it was. I bought into a mass design or a mass agenda. And so what you're sharing, while far-fetched to many, if there's any research that's done, come on, all you computer players, take a look at your Skyrim and take a look at your Creed and so many of these games. We talk about these white brotherhoods. We talk about these initiate sacred mystery schools, the Druids, the Hermetics, the Cathars, the Templars. This is part of who we've been since the dawn of time. A little research and a little questioning outside of a classic closed loop agenda education system will show you what a rich tapestry we have. And Rob, I appreciate you being bold enough to say the things that not everyone is immediately going to be able to tap into. It's exciting to hear the ascension of the planet is unfolding. We are experiencing massive changes. We are experiencing massive planetary die-offs of species. We are experiencing a lot of world and geological changes. And I've been told, keep your eyes open for not just these storms and not just these fires, but what's going on with these earthquakes and volcanic activity in areas of South America that are opening up in Peru and dropping enormous crevasses. We know our planet is bound to change. That's why we have the Grand Canyon. That's why we're not Pangea anymore. It's foolhardy to think it's not going to happen in our timeline. And what you're telling me and what you're telling our audience, it sounds like, is that the Venusians also know that this is part of kind of a grand design, and they're encouraging us to go inward so that we can be moving through this ascension.
They very much are wanting people to act as the lightning rods on the ground. This is a repeated story that the more and more people gather, usually with contactees like Louis, are gathering in these positions to bring in the light to their own consciousness. The earth will feed that. And what
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed is my experiences down there, I'm given a series of challenges and awakenings, and physiologically going through changes and some blood purification. And we all have different levels of vibration stuff. So you can't judge someone, oh, that person has this problem. Well, you might have another problem that's even
Yeah.
worse. So
Yeah. We're all
we just
dealing.
have to be in tune and be humble and know that there is a plan of redemption. And as we step into our own awareness and, utilizing the 5-pointed star of life and developing the virtues, and, being humble and serving others. When you serve others, you actually serve yourself. And to actually know that is difficult because, you're just trying to get home on time, where there's no traffic, where you have some time to spend with your kids. And
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to eat your food. You're going to go in front of the idiot box and fall asleep and wake up and do it again. So we have to find a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of technology that when people really wake up and realize what's been happening,
Mm-hmm.
they will be very upset at those that have knowingly kept this from them.
Yeah.
And we have to really move into the Christ light of forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
because that's one of the biggest messages that we had at the Salt Flats was forgiveness. So it's hard to do when you see someone who maybe just killed your wife or someone, but and I'm not asking for superhuman feats from everyone, but we have to look for forgiveness in our own life with our own petty little issues, and even to forgive ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
Especially to forgive ourselves. I just think like self-love, before you can forgive someone else, before you can love someone else, you really need to start here. And that's probably the greatest wisdom that we all need to be really absorbing and reflecting and taking that time into meditation. Rob, I appreciate that you said that. Given the fact that we're over time, I just want to remind our guests the promise revealed from Venus with Love Mount Shasta Conference. It is, give us the dates real quick, Rob.
July 27th to 29th.
Yeah.
People will be arriving on the 26th and leaving on Monday the 30th, or some people are going to be renting places up there before and afterwards. And I still have a few vendor spaces, and maybe if there's a person with some vehicle who wants to do some shuttle driving, there's maybe a few volunteer tickets. But right now it's beautiful weather up here. The weather's starting nice, and it's a beautiful place. And like I said, the attendees are, it's about you meeting people.
Yeah.
Speakers are great, but you're going to make lifetime friendships there with people that you can't imagine that have had similar experiences to yours.
Yeah, it's really a reunion of soul family, isn't it? Isn't it, Rob? And I'm going to be there. I cannot wait to participate. Mount Shasta's been calling my name for years, and this is my ticket to come. So I encourage all of our audience listeners, please take a look at this. This might be a calling for you, and if it's not, pass it on to someone who is. And I look forward to seeing you all on that gorgeous mountain. Thank you, Rob, for joining us again tonight. And keep sending,
you for having me.
Absolutely. And keep sending us amazing experts that we can share. Solutionary TV, that's what it's about. Yes, we spent a lot of time recently on soul evolution and what is our inherent divinity, and a lot to do with quantum principles, and now a lot to do with the potential of life within this sphere and off this sphere, because this is important. We're getting back to what matters. We don't need to see another mass shooting on the television set. We don't need to hear about another superstar that's going through a divorce. Aren't we tired of this, folks? This is why you're listening to Solutionary TV, because we are bringing you the guests and the content that is actually augmenting and embellishing your life. We hope so. If not, give us good feedback, because that's our goal. Please consider being a sponsor. Please consider being a patron. Go to solutionarytv.com. Take a look at the amazing content there, and know that we count on you. And we are so grateful that you join us every Monday evening. Thanks again, and remember that we collectively, we are the solution.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.